Good morning, everyone. This is the community meeting for the county's proposed fiscal year 2024 budget. My name is David Sinclair. I'm the county's budget director. I'm joined by fellow OMB staff, Michael Herlocker. He is our deputy, as well as Matt Corneliuson. He is the county's capital improvement program coordinator. Before I begin, the purpose of today's meeting is to go through the county executive's proposed budget presentation as it was presented to the Board of County Supervisors Tuesday evening. And if time permits, and if you wish, Matt Corneliuson can walk us through the proposed CIP presentation, which was presented to the board on the evening of February 14th. So if it's all right, what I'd like to do is just go right into the proposed budget presentation. And so this slide provides a general overview of the county's general fund revenue sources. As you can see from the slide, 70% of our general revenue comes really from two sources, real estate taxes and personal property taxes on vehicles and business tangible personal property as well. The county's proposed general fund budget is $1.6 billion. And the other local taxes and resources in the upper left-hand corner of the pie chart includes revenue sources such as our local sales tax, agency revenue, which includes revenue from the Commonwealth supporting our human services agencies and things like that. Our general fund expenditure budget is most of it is consists of our local transfer to the schools, as well as the transfer to our adult detention center. That comprises 55% of our general fund expenditures. The proposed school transfer is approximately $780 million in the proposed budget. And then of the remaining, salary and benefits of county employees consists of 31%. So those two areas comprise almost 90% of the county's general fund budget. This slide is just a summary of how our county government is broken up by functional area. We have four main functional areas of the county government. As you can imagine, public safety consists of police, fire and rescue, the sheriff's office, the adult detention center, our public safety communications office, but it also includes our judicial agencies at the Prince William Courthouse. The next functional area is human services. That consists of our Department of Social Services, Community Services, Aging, and Housing and Community Development. Our third functional area is community development, which consists of our Department of Parks and Recreation and Tourism, our planning office, transportation, and of course, public works and economic development. It also includes cultural and recreation agencies such as our library, historic preservation, and agencies like that. General government is our fourth functional area, and that consists of the Board of County Supervisors, executive management, the finance office, and of course, management and budget, but also the Department of Information Technology and Facilities and Fleet Management, who manage a lot of our facility construction projects, as well as property management and things like that. I don't know if it's possible, Michael. I'd like to just pause here to see if there's any questions up front. Otherwise, I will continue with the budget priorities included in the proposed budget.
There are no questions in the chat, but I could unmute everybody if you'd like to do it that way.
Yeah, I think that'd be fine.
All right. Right now. So you should be able to unmute yourself if you're interested in asking a question. Any of the participants.
Okay, I get it. It's pretty early on in the presentation, so I'll continue forward with the next section, which outlines the county executive's budget priorities. In this budget, on the revenue side, our priorities were to maintain the county schools revenue agreement. That agreement stipulates that the schools will receive approximately 57.2% of general revenue, and the county government would receive approximately 42.8% of general revenue. We are going to, in this budget, try to mitigate the impact of rising real estate assessments. During calendar year 2022, the average residential assessed value increased approximately 6.5%. So if we just retain the same tax rate as we do in the current fiscal year, average tax bills would increase 6.5%. As we will find out later on, the proposed budget does recommend a lowering of the real estate tax rate to offset the rise in real estate assessments. On the expenditure side, we want to ensure employee compensation competitiveness with our Northern Virginia, frankly, our labor market competitors. On February 14th, a consultant presented their recommendations to the Board of County Supervisors regarding some market value adjustments, and those recommendations are reflected in the proposed budget, and we will get to those recommendations shortly. We want to also advance board actions that the Board of County Supervisors have already taken that adds budget initiatives in this proposed budget. And we need to fund essential operations in order to maintain services. Some of these include items such as utility cost increases that we are seeing in our own households. And then also there are opportunities for budget realignment that I will walk us through. For example, during the FY2023 budget process, the Board of County Supervisors wanted to staff to look at long-term vacancies, and we have done that in this proposed budget. If it's all right, Michael, I want to pause there because I saw a few questions flash
Yes.
on the screen, if that's all right.
Sure, I can read those to you. So the first question is, does adjustment in the tax rate result in a flat tax rate to homeowners?
Yeah, I'm actually, and please feel free to unmute if you want to elaborate on your question. I'm interpreting that to being, does the proposed real estate tax rate result in an average flat tax bill? And as we will see, I have a slide on this later on towards the end. It does not. We are lowering the real estate tax rate, but the average residential tax bill would increase 1%. And I have a slide on that later on.
Next question is, has there been any discussion of allocating the CSRA using the 9 classifications versus lump sum to have better accountability of fund execution?
I'm assuming that the question references the county's transfer to the schools.
Yes,
Okay.
that
Yes,
is
it
correct.
does refer to the school transfer. Right now, the county sends a transfer to the schools. Correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, on our budget resolution that the board is scheduled to adopt in April 25th. That appropriation of the school's budget is broken down by the 9 areas by the identified in the Code of Virginia.
That's correct, yes.
Now, once we make those transfers, I do want to emphasize for everyone, for example, one of those areas is instruction. Michael, if you'd like to unmute them, that's fine. I'm happy to have a conversation here.
I am, I am pressing the unmute all.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
great, fantastic. Hey, so, we, well, if you all are breaking it out, because I think in the past it's been lump sum, will you present that to the public, how it's broken out in the 9 divisions? Because I have not seen anything beyond a lump sum allocation to the schools.
What we can do is we can make available last year's resolution that authorized the school budget if you'd like to take a look at that.
Okay, that'll be great. And I'm assuming it's broken out. Is that what you're saying, Dave?
Yes, ma'am. For example, one of the main categories is, I think, Michael, by instruction, also by debt service fund, things like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go find it right now and put the link into the chat for that resolution. And we do break it down by the state categories and we break it down by the fund categories. And so we actually break it down in 2 different ways in that resolution. So I'm gonna throw that in the chat here in just a minute once I get it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, we're happy to provide that. I do want to emphasize, however, that once the Board of County Supervisors appropriates those funds to Prince William County Schools, it is the school board that decides how that money gets spent within each category.
Yes, very much aware of that. It was just my understanding that we only allocated it in the lump sum. I think the revenue sharing agreement allows for us to give it in a lump sum or to break it up in the 9 divisions. And prior to you guys just explaining that, it's always appeared that it was just given in a lump sum. So I'm appreciative to know that it is at least broken out. So thank you.
Yes, well, Michael will provide the link, ma'am, and you can judge for yourself.
Awesome.
Okay. Unless there's any more questions, I'll continue on with the presentation.
Well, I will ask just one question. How do we make sure that it's being utilized in those different 9 divisions? Do we do any type of auditing or anything of that nature?
Yes, I mean the school board themselves, they have their own fiscal year audit that's required. And frankly, their financial statements are also reflected in our annual comprehensive financial report as well.
Okay, great, fantastic. Thank you.
Okay.
We did have a question, just one more quick question. Someone asking what CSRA stood for.
The county school?
Revenue sharing agreement.
Yes.
Okay. County school revenue agreement.
sharing agreement. Yeah.
I just want to emphasize that was not necessarily the county government's acronym. It was the acronym used by the
Right.
person asking the question in this chat. So during the past 6 months or so, the Board of County Supervisors has made some decisions that impact the fiscal year 2024 budget. In December of 2022, the board authorized a police pay scale adjustment during fiscal year 23 that had a half-year impact in fiscal 23. But what you see on this slide is nearly $13 million impact for the full year costs in fiscal year 24's proposed budget. Frankly, everything on these slides are a decision already made that is causing the FY24 budget to increase. I think almost $17 million if you add up all the numbers on this slide. A couple property acquisitions that the Board of County Supervisors authorized that totals $1.6 million in fiscal year 24. They purchased a firearms training facility for our public safety agencies. They also authorized the acquisition of a parcel of land next to the McCourt for future expansion. Those costs in total in fiscal 24 is $1.6 million, but those full year costs will increase to $4.1 million in fiscal 25. These property acquisitions are financed with debt, and we have partial year costs in fiscal 24's proposed budget, but those full year costs need to be reflected in fiscal year 25. Also in December, when the board authorized adjustments to the police pay scale adjustments in order to be competitive with the Northern Virginia labor market, they also authorized a hiring incentive plan for positions that the county is currently having trouble recruiting. Obviously, these are positions like police officers and jail officers at the Adult Detention Center, but it also includes positions like nurses, registered nurses, therapists in our human services agencies, engineers, and commercial driver's licensed operators, CDL licenses. All of those positions are currently the county is having trouble recruiting. Those ongoing costs in the proposed budget is $1 million. Also, the board authorized a collective bargaining ordinance, and so these positions are included in the proposed budget. And it's actually a little bit less than $1 million. It's about $980,000, and that also includes contractual services for labor relations agreements. During the fiscal 23, the Board of County Supervisors authorized the use of funding to build a Cat Harpin Park splash pad. The proposed budget includes the required maintenance of that facility. A key component of the proposed budget is compensation. This represents a significant investment in the county's workforce to remain competitive in the Northern Virginia labor market. As I mentioned earlier, a consultant did a market study of county positions relative to competitors in Northern Virginia. And compensation in the proposed budget totals $54 million. As you can see in the table below, this consists of market value adjustments recommended by the consultant. It also reflects a step or merit increase that's equivalent to approximately 3%. And so the table below shows you the breakdown. Yes.
That might have just been a little bit of feedback.
Okay. The table below summarizes the market value adjustments in fiscal year 24 and fiscal year 25, as well as the recommended step merit increases. This is the first time that compensation has been broken out in, frankly, 5 different areas. In terms of public safety sworn, total compensation for the Adult Detention Center is 7.2%. Fire and Rescue is 9.8%. Sheriff, 9.8%. Police is 3%. Now, this does not include the aforementioned police pay scale adjustment that the Board of County Supervisors authorized in December 2022. That was a 17.5% market adjustment that the police department has already received in fiscal 23. And then for general government employees, by that we mean all non-sworn employees. That would be a total 9% increase in fiscal year 24. I will add that staff is recommending an increase in board member salary. Frankly, the board's individual salaries have not increased in 12 years. And this would not take into effect for the current Board of County Supervisors. It would go into effect when the next Board of County Supervisors takes office on January 1, 2024. And as you can see there, the cost in fiscal 24 is about $140,000 on a half-year basis. Staff is recommending that board salaries be increased to the median of Loudoun, Fairfax, Arlington, and the city of Alexandria.
We do have a question that just came up in the chat. Can the 2.5% market adjustment for general government in FY25 change? In other words, is there an assurance for the employees that it will not go down or be removed?
So the consultant recommended a total market adjustment of 8.5%. We were not able to fit all of that 8.5% recommendation from the consultant in fiscal year 24. So what we have done our best here to make sure that the bulk of that is funded in the fiscal 24 proposed budget, with the balance funded in fiscal year 25. What I will share with you is what we have programmed in fiscal year 25 is affordable and balanced based on not only the FY24 proposed budget, but we also do a 5-year budget plan as well. And so that is sustained and programmed in fiscal year 25, and it is affordable because each year of our 5-year budget plan must be balanced. We do not allow any deficit spending in the out years of our proposed 5-year plan. I don't know if that adequately answers your question. Let me know if it does not.
Just a note to everybody, you should be able to, she said, yes, it does. Thank you. But you should, as individual participants, be able to unmute yourself. So as Dave is interested in feedback, you can either put your question in the chat and we'll read that out, or you can unmute yourself and ask your question that way.
Yes, and I'm happy to have a discussion. The reason why we initially muted everyone was in case we had a large number of participants. We didn't want everybody talking over one another, but I'm happy to have a conversation if you'd like to unmute and just have a discussion when we go through each slide. I'm happy to do that. So what I'm about to do is go through each of our strategic goal areas based on the community's strategic plan. That is one of the primary policy documents that drives our budget decisions. The first goal area is quality education and workforce development. The big item on this is obviously the county transfer to Prince William County schools. It is increasing $72 million in the FY24 proposed budget over fiscal year 23. This represents a 10.1% increase in the school transfer. And I will just note at a $72 million increase, this is the largest dollar increase ever transferred to the schools, and it is the largest percentage increase since fiscal year 2007, which was right before the housing market recession. We do have additional transfers to the schools that the board authorized years ago. We are maintaining the class size reduction grant at $1 million. We are continuing an additional transfer to the schools when they increase student capacity at Gainesville High School. We were happy to pay that increase, that pro rata share of the increase as an additional transfer out of the county's share of general revenue. And we are continuing a couple other things. Our support for Northern Virginia Community College is $1.1 million in the proposed budget, and that helps fund early college programs for school students as well as workforce development programs. The next goal area in the proposed budget, strategic goal area, is a resilient economy, and we are recommending membership in the Northern Virginia Economic Development Alliance. The purpose of this is to partner with other jurisdictions such as Alexandria, Arlington, Fairfax County, Loudoun County, Fauquier County, and some of the cities of Fairfax City, City of Falls Church, and Manassas Park, to increase the regional brand awareness as a world-class region and to market Northern Virginia as a top place for talent. We are also providing marketing in the FY24 budget for the LPGA Solheim Cup, which the county will be hosting as a tourist destination in September 2024. Fiscal 24, we have marketing money of $500,000. And then when we host the actual event in fiscal year 25, that is $1.2 million. I will quickly point out that this is being funded exclusively from transient occupancy tax revenue that the county must spend on tourism initiatives. That's written and prescribed by the Code of Virginia. So this is also a way to keep these costs off the county's general fund budget and the real estate tax bill, if you will. Also, in a resilient economy, we are recommending additional positions in our planning office and development services office. for plan review and maintaining inspection services. I will note that these positions are funded exclusively by development fees. They are not funded by the county's general fund or folks' real estate tax bill. These are funded by the fees that developers and the development community pay into a separate fund. And as you can see, staff is recommending the following increases in the land development, building development, and fire marshal's office fees to support these positions, as well as the compensation improvements of employees funded by these fees. Moving on to Go ahead,
We
Mr.
actually have
Hill.
someone who raised their hand. So if you can unmute yourself, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Mr. Hill. Okay, Mr. Hill, if you're having trouble, I cannot hear you. If you would
So,
like to type your question in the chat, we'll be happy to answer anything that you'd like.
so generally I can unmute as the person who's presenting. I can have you unmuted or allow you to unmute yourself, but I can't just unmute you. So, you know, I can't just reach in and unmute you, but I can allow you to unmute yourself. And I've allowed everybody to unmute themselves. So you would need to click whatever function, because I know several of you might be on a phone or on a computer, that would allow you to speak. Okay,
So
he put his question in the chat. Yeah. How do these fee increases compare to other localities?
I do not have that with me, Mr. Hill, but what I will say is these fee increases were a lot lower in the fiscal 23 budget when frankly, when inflation and wages started to take off. Michael, is there a way that you can investigate what these fee increases were in the fiscal 23 budget? They were all a lot lower than these percentages a year ago.
Yeah, I can look at last year's. And certainly what we're going to do is take these questions. We will publish these questions on our Q&A. And for something like that, we could look into what other localities are doing related to fees specifically for inspection services in land and building development.
What I will also say is county staff has reached out to the development community. And one of the things that we do hear from the development community is that they don't necessarily mind these fee increase. They, generally speaking, I think they recognize that they got a kind of a break last year because our fee increase was very modest a year ago. As long as we don't see declines in service, because what we hear from the development community is really, it's the old adage, time is money. And if they're waiting on the county in terms of plan review times and inspection turnarounds, that's frankly time lost to them. And generally speaking, they recognize that these fee increases were very low a year ago.
Yeah, and on that note, so last year, building development, or let me start with land because that's in the order that it's in. Land was 3% increase last year. Building development was 1.3% increase, and the fire marshal fees was a 1.3% increase a year ago in the last year's budget.
So just to Thank you, Mr. Hill. So yeah, I mean, last year, thank you for those percentages, Michael. As you can see, last year's increases were a lot lower than the rate of inflation. The work actually begins on these fee increases, frankly, during the fall of last year. And so last year it was perhaps a lot lower, those fee increases than they should have been. Moving on to transportation and mobility, the Potomac Rappahannock Transportation Commission, who provides local bus service in the county, they have presented a local subsidy request of the county of $21 million in the proposed budget. I do want to pause a moment and make sure everyone understands that this is not necessarily the county executive's recommendation, but it is their request is presented on this slide. They have requested $21 million, but staff recognizes that this is almost an $8 million increase, or 60% increase compared to a year ago. Traditionally, Prince William County funds PRTC from the motor fuels tax. And PRTC's motor fuels tax estimate is almost $18 million in fiscal year 24. So their local subsidy request is $21 million. The county's motor fuels tax estimate, as done by PRTC, is almost $18 million. And so what we're running into, unless something else changes, that will use about $3 million of the county's motor fuels tax fund balance of $3.3 million. What is a conversation that needs to be had is based on PRTC projections, their local subsidy of Prince William County would increase another 58%, or $12.2 million, to more than $33 million in fiscal year 25. And frankly, this is unsustainable. I think everybody recognizes this. The county's motor fuels tax fund balance would be completely liquidated if these local subsidy increases occur. And so what we will be having is a budget work session. I think it's scheduled for April 4th, where PRTC will come in and present their FY24 local subsidy request and have a conversation about, frankly, the future of transit in the county and where we want that to be. Some of the other highlights on this slide is our transportation staff. We do recommend 2 FTEs, 2 positions in the proposed budget, one of which is a traffic safety engineer. Frankly, the pedestrian safety and motor vehicle safety is, we need some help there, and this safety engineer is going to help provide those safety requests and evaluate improvements to prevent accidents, crashes, and unfortunately some fatalities. Michael, is there a question?
Yes, there is. Would the traffic safety engineer expand the Safe Routes to Schools program?
Yes, I do believe so. As a matter of fact, there's I think a pilot program that's going to be presented to the Board of County Supervisors, specifically as it pertains to schools, I believe. That's going to be presented to the board later this month. And I encourage you perhaps to tune in for that. Thank you for the question. On a safe and secure community, we do recommend a community safety initiative that was presented to the Board of County Supervisors last December. It was well received by the board, and this would authorize 4 new positions in the Office of Executive Management to engage the community and focus on intervention, prevention, diversion, and other evidence-informed strategies. And if you like, we can also provide a link to that community safety initiative that was presented to the board in December. If you go to our proposed budget document, and we can show you how to find that. If you find this initiative in executive management, we also provide the link there to the presentation. I think it was last December. We also are funding in the proposed budget the final year of the Commonwealth Attorney's staffing plan. This is 7 positions, and it ends a 3-year staffing increase that will have provided 24 positions over 3 years at a cost of $3.4 million. The increase of these 7 proposed FTEs is $1.2 million in the proposed budget. The next strategic goal area is environmental conservation and sustainable growth. The proposed budget includes an energy program manager to implement the Community Energy and Sustainability Master Plan. That plan is currently under development. We think it will be presented to the Board of County Supervisors late summer, early fall of this calendar year. And so once that plan gets adopted, the Energy Program Manager is going to be responsible for helping to implement a lot of the climate mitigation and resiliency goals and strategies that come out of the plan. The proposed budget does include a stormwater management fee increase. You can see the proposed fee increases in the table at the bottom of this slide. It is not ad valorem. It is not based on assessed value of residents' homes. It is a straight fee, and it is expected that the proposed fee increase will generate $750,000 that will be frankly invested in our capital improvement program for stream assessments, restorations, and retrofits, as well as drainage maintenance and culvert modifications. We have an aging drainage infrastructure in Prince William County that we need to get to replacing in support of meeting state and federal mandates such as the Clean Water Act, our MS4 permitting, and Ches Bay requirements.
We do have a question related to is any funding identified to implement the total maximum daily load studies completed in the past, which identify action steps required to get local streams off the DEQ dirty water list?
Thank you for the question. Frankly, we'll have to investigate that one. I don't have that level of detail in front of me at the moment. And I will emphasize for everyone that if we are unable to answer a question today, we will enter the question into our question and answer database, and we will answer it through there. So please be sure to check back next week, where we will have an adequate answer for your questions that we are unable to answer today. Also, on environmental conservation and sustainable growth, the proposed budget does recommend an increase to the county's solid waste fee. I will point out for everyone that this is the first fee increase since it was originally adopted 25 years ago in 1998. Right now, existing landfill capacity will end by calendar year 2030. And in order to expand landfill operations to what we call phase 4, that's a new section of the landfill, we have to replicate or move the infrastructure to phase 4. Things like building access roads, building a heavy equipment shop, things of that nature. And that costs money. So the fee increase is expected to generate $7 million in fiscal year 24. And that's going to fund a lot of the phase 4 infrastructure costs over the next 20 years. That's estimated to be $200 million. But what residents get out of that is it extends the estimated landfill life by 35 years. And you will also see that a lot of the phase 4 infrastructure costs will begin in the FY24 budget. We have to have permitting to allow it, authorized by, I think, the Department of Environmental Quality, for us to begin infrastructure development in fiscal year 25. And you can see those costs in our proposed CIP. The solid waste fee will also provide litter control services, additional litter control services, such as I think it will provide the equivalent of 2 additional litter control crews in the county.
You have another question in the chat. Yeah. Will stream restoration projects such as the one underway now on Powell's Creek continue to be funded after the state completes all the action steps in phase 3 of the watershed improvement plan of the Chesapeake TMDL?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Grimes. If it's all right, we'll add that to our list of questions and we'll ask that to the experts. And we'll have a response to your question next week, if that's all right.
He did say that's another question to add to next week. So yes.
For your understanding, appreciate it. This slide summarizes our information technology investments in the proposed budget. Frankly, some of our existing technology contracts cost $1.2 million more than it did a year ago. And we also have a section here for our technology improvement plan that invests $1.6 million to improve cloud security. Frankly, we no longer have server farms to support the county's technology infrastructure. A lot of our backbone is in the cloud, and we need to add layers of security to maintain operations. We also have licensing and subscription costs for initiatives such as we are replacing our social services juvenile case management software, and we need to provide the licensing and subscription costs on an ongoing basis to fund that. But as you can see, grand total on this slide, approximately $3 million. We also have a number of budget items that are necessary to maintain existing services. Casualty insurance and workers' compensation adds $1 million in the proposed budget for increasing claim severity and frequency. This is a function of the number of employees that work, frankly, in hazardous roles in the community, our police officers, our sheriff deputies, our firefighters, and frankly, construction as well. We have a number of new playing fields that were constructed during the past year at Rosemount Lewis Park and Allie Krieger Park and Cat Harpin Park. You see these ongoing operating costs so that we can maintain these fields. And a healthy portion of this $352,000 is a one-time cost for equipment. We do have a number of positions in our tax admin and procurement offices that are recommended in our Department of Finance. I do want to emphasize these positions are revenue supported. This is to improve our tax administration call center improvements. If you put in a call during that's close to the deadline, for example, for real estate or personal property taxes, you might currently have a wait of 2 or 2.5 hours. So these positions would improve those call center response times, but also out of state tax compliance, as well as delinquent tax collection. We also have increased costs necessary to maintain services such as utilities. Much like ourselves in our private lives, frankly, the county is seeing a 25 to 35% increase in our utility costs. It's just a reflection of the market. We also have cost increases for existing custodial and security contracts. This does include $200,000 for a contract at the Judicial Center for its security system that has come off warranty. Frankly, that is a system that cannot be allowed to fail. We have $400,000 in the proposed budget for contractual lease escalations for both existing and new leases that the board has already taken action on. The proposed budget includes a 5% increase for existing community partners that provide services on behalf of the county, and $50,000 for existing memberships and agreements, interjurisdictional agreements that we have at Birmingham Green, COG, and the Northern Virginia Regional Commission. It's all right. I'd like to pause there for a moment and give some folks the opportunity to ask some questions, if you have any.
We don't have anything in the chat, but I have given everybody the ability to unmute themselves. So if you want to do that and ask a question, you can.
Hey, hearing none, if it's all right, I will continue with the presentation. If a question pops into your mind, please either put it in the chat or save it, and we'll be happy to try to answer it. So the proposed budget includes a number of opportunities for budget realignment. And in this proposed budget, staff has identified nearly $6 million of savings. And when we were concluding the FY23 budget process, for example, the Board of County Supervisors wanted staff to take a look at long-term vacancies in the county, and we have done that in the proposed budget. The proposed budget proposes the elimination of nearly 33 long-term vacancies in the county. A lot of the positions in this table have been vacant for either more than a year or getting close to a year. And so that results in budget savings of $2.6 million. The proposed budget also recommends an additional 5 positions be eliminated, 4 in our information technology department and 1 in the Office of Executive Management. However, those savings are being shifted to contractual services because they are currently filled by contractors. Frankly, in the case of information technology, those are hard to fill positions. And frankly, the county's pay scale, frankly, can't compete with the private sector. We're up against the likes of Amazon and other of those big technology firms, and we are unable to compete. So the rational decision, the purposeful decision has been made that we are going to fill those services that are needed in among county operations via a contract. And so while we are eliminating these positions, we are shifting the value of these positions into the county's contractual services budget so those operations can continue. Other savings in the proposed budget is a budget realignment in our Department of Social Services associated with Children's Services Act. This results in a $2 million local savings. Something I do want to point out here, this is a mandated service for special education, private day school, and residential placements for children with that cannot function in an ordinary classroom setting. I want to emphasize for everybody that this realignment that results in $2 million of local savings, it has no impact on existing services. We are merely realigning the budget based on current actual expenses that have stabilized during the pandemic. And the recommended realignment still provides capacity for growth for future placements. We also have programmed budget agency savings resulting in $1.2 million in savings. To conclude the proposed budget presentation, I do have a couple of slides. Here's our adopted 5-year plan. I spoke about it a little bit earlier. This is the proposed 5-year budget plan for fiscal years 2024 through 2028. As you can see in the bottom line, this line at the bottom in green or gray, the available capacity, it is balanced in each year of our proposed 5-year plan. And that is a financial policy requirement that our 5-year plan be adopted in each year. We do not allow deficit spending, neither in the current year or in the out years. And I believe I brought this up when the question was asked if employee compensation, the market value adjustment, was sustainable in fiscal year 25. And as you can see, the proposed 5-year plan is balanced in each year. All right, let's get to brass tacks about tax rates. The proposed real estate tax rate is 97.7 cents per $100 of assessed value. That is a reduction from the current real estate tax rate of $1.03. The proposed tax rate results in an average residential tax bill increase of 1% or $49. You might be asking, well, what tax rate results in an average residential flat tax bill, whereby that tax bill increase is 0% or $0 increase? That flat tax bill rate is exactly 1 cent lower than what is proposed. The flat bill rate is 0.967 cents. On the personal property, the proposed budget is funded at a business tangible computer and peripheral tax rate increase. The current rate is $1.65 per $100 of valuation. Staff is recommending a 15-cent increase to $1.80. And each nickel on this computer and peripheral tax rate generates $1.4 million. So Tuesday evening, when staff presented the proposed budget to the board gave staff direction to advertise a business tangible computer and peripheral tax rate of $2.15. Prince William County does have a fire levy. That levy rate is currently 7.5 cents. We are proposing that rate be unchanged because, as part of the proposed CIP presentation that was presented on February 14th, we have proposed a program that starts taking care of existing fire and rescue station renovation and station rebuilds. Some of our fire and rescue stations are approaching 60 years old, and some of them, frankly, may have been constructed with those prefabricated structures that were popular back in the day. And some of those, based on a facility condition assessment, some of those facilities are recommended for rebuild. And so that program is put in place. And as you can see, at a flat levy rate, the average residential levy bill increases $23, but that's the investment that's triggering that. You see on below the penny on the right-hand side of this slide, each penny on the real estate tax rate is worth $8.6 million. And based on the county school revenue sharing agreement, the school portion of that penny is worth almost $5 million, and the county portion is worth $3.7 million. This graphic highlights the average tax bill and what each dollar, how it was broken up in terms of government services. As you can see, more than half of the tax bill is transferred to the schools. And then the next largest component, as you might imagine, is public safety of our local tax dollars. And then human services, general government, and community development, and debt service. You might be asking, what is debt service? When we finance capital projects and we finance it with debt, this is our mortgage costs in our budget. This is the repayment of our principal and interest costs to finance existing debt and new debt resulting from our proposed CIP. You might also be asking, what is this final sliver of the dollar worth non-departmental? That is a collection of budgets that do not fit in a particular agency budget. For example, countywide insurance is probably the largest share of our non-departmental budget. Michael, is there anything I'm missing there about non-departmental?
No, I also the contributions that we make to the Hilton Performing Arts Center and the Northern Virginia Community College are represented in that sliver as well.
Thank you. Opportunities for public engagement. As you can see, this is our FY2024 proposed budget website. You can access all 500 or 600 pages of the proposed budget and CIP by accessing our website if you care to read our document in full. We also have some topics. As you can see here, I don't know if you can see this cursor. there is a Got Questions tab. As we mentioned earlier, if you're like me and after this morning's meeting, you have questions that pop into your mind, you can enter questions into our question and answer database, and we will try to answer them as fast as we can. We strive for 2 business days, but depending on your question, if it takes a great deal of research or if we have to coordinate with Prince William County Schools, do please be aware it will take longer than 2 business days. We also have a CIP interactive map, and we'll also have Michael. Yes, Mr. Hill, we'll be happy to put that up again, the 5-year plan slide. We will also have on this website when we publish our public notifications for the budget and the tax rate, you'll be able to look at those ads as well. This is our budget calendar. We have budget work sessions scheduled with the Board of County Supervisors during the month of March. And the first one actually begins the afternoon of March 7th. That is when Michelle Attreed, the county's Chief Financial Officer, will present our general revenue forecast to the board. And that presentation is actually available now. And I think Michael is going to provide a link to that presentation in the chat if you'd like to take a look at that now. We also have budget work sessions on March 14th. I think that's when we will have a work session to review the proposed solid waste fee increase. We understand that's the first increase in ever. And we want to present that information to the community and the board and give the board opportunities to engage staff and ask questions about the fee increase. We have our, okay, I will get to you, Ashley. Just let me finish up this because I think it's the last slide. Then I'll jump back to everybody's questions. Thank you. We have 2 public hearings on the budget. The first one will be on the evening of March 21st in the board chamber. The second public hearing will be on April 11th. And April 11th is our official public hearing on tax rates and the budget that satisfies Code of Virginia requirements for reviewing the budget. The Prince William County Schools will present their budget to the Board of County Supervisors on April 4th. Budget recap, that is the county executive's final opportunity to present changes to his proposed budget based on new information that we've pulled during the past month. That will be presented to the board on April 11th. Budget markup is scheduled for April 18th. After budget recap, budget markup is turned over to the Board of County Supervisors, and the Board of County Supervisors mark up the proposed budget. They might take items out, they might add items in, they might make changes to the proposed real estate tax rate. They could do a lot of different things. And right now, budget adoption culminates as scheduled. Adoption is scheduled for April 25th. So I saw a couple questions flash across the screen. I think Mr. Hill was first with the 5-year plan.
Yes. Wanting to put the 5-year budget slide up again.
And I will also emphasize for everybody, on our budget website, you can access this presentation in full. If you'd like to take digest it at your leisure and ask questions of us, you can do that offline as well. This presentation is available on our budget website as well.
The other question was with the dollar bill, it says 57.23% goes to the schools. However, slide 4 says 55% of general fund expenses go to the schools. Can you clarify the difference in the percentages?
Sure. I think they're referencing this. Okay. So the county school revenue sharing agreement, and this is an important distinction, so it's a really good question. The schools receive 57.23% of general revenue. What do we mean by general revenue? We mean real estate taxes, personal property taxes, and other local taxes like the local sales tax, business professional occupancy license taxes, taxes that are generated locally. What it does not include is what we call agency revenue that county agencies receive from their day-to-day operations. For example, our Department of Social Services or Community Services receives revenue from the Commonwealth to support mental health services in the county, foster care services in the county. We are unable to share that revenue with the schools. So that's why you're seeing that transfer to the schools be a little bit lower, because this total pie chart on expenditures reflect total county expenditures, including those human services agencies that are supported by state revenue as well. Ashley, does that answer your question, or do you need me to try to dive into that a little deeper? Okay, thank you. And if you don't mind, I'm going to go back to the proposed 5-year plan for Mr. Hill, just in case he wanted to study that further. That's all I have on the proposed budget, folks. I'm happy to entertain any more questions that you have. I appreciate all your input. And Mr. Grimes, we will get answers for you, I promise you, this week on your questions related to total maximum daily loads and things like that.